Did you know that Luffy in Israel doesn't actually go by the name of Luffy, it's actually Loopy. And that isn't even the wildest name change for Luffy and other characters in One Piece either. Ayo guys, I find it really interesting but also infuriating that One Piece in North America is not the same around the world. Ignorance is bliss, I tell you. So there are over 1,000 characters in One Piece, and that makes for a lot of faces. And just like its cast, One Piece has many faces around the world. And what do I mean by that? It's not like Luffy all of a sudden looks different in Israel, but he's just called Luffy out there for some translation reason or error, but who knows. But it's not only in Israel where we see differences like this. Get out of here, Viz Translations, it's not your turn yet. One Piece in North America, where I reside, doesn't exactly look the same as One Piece in Italy. I'm sure many diehard fans have already seen these special editions for volumes 98 through 100 in Italy, but if you haven't, here they are. And yes, of course I had to buy them, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the logo, more on that later, but I still love this special release to celebrate the 100th volume. Man, it's really brazy because we're on volume 104 now as far as the Japanese releases go. Man, time is going by quick. A little too quick. We're gonna reach the end of One Piece soon. I don't like thinking about that. But hey, it's not every day a series can tell a compelling story like One Piece for this long and be consistently amazing. And this special edition is great. Volume 98 and 99 come with these awesome posters that connect and also some great postcards. Don't really need postcards, but it's a nice little thing to have. And then we get an amazing box set for the 100th volume to fit 98.99 along with it, and then you get this amazing panoramic poster. I need to find a frame for this immediately. But what did we get in the States to celebrate here? It's just the normal volume covers. Still fantastic covers. I'm still waiting on 101, but I love these covers because they're drawn by our god Ichiro Oda. And I don't want to complain, but once you look over at the other yard and see that the grass is a tiny bit greener, you can't help but just be a tiny bit jealous. I don't want the special release to replace the regular volume covers because I want both. Hell, even Friends got a really nice leather-backed volumes. Little simple, but hey, it's different, and I like the theme that goes along with pirates and logbooks. I couldn't find any special release for Japan, but they had so much hype to go along with the release since it's the Bible over there. And once again, I'm feeling envious to not be surrounded by so many amazing One Piece collectibles and collaborations that I totally don't need but really want. But besides the special editions that we have to pay extra to import and just to look nice on my shelf, since I can't really read Italian, even though I thought, hey, it's close to Spanish, right? I should get it. No, I was wrong. But let's go over some volume covers that are different from around the world, different from our own here in America. Let's start out with classic old Japan and America with that first volume, and what a classic cover. We get the same cover over here, but slightly different format, but it's still good. Now let's compare it to France. That's where we get a whole different look. Not a whole different design, but a format, since we still get that classic Romance Dawn art, but it's not, you know, within like a boxed window. Now it's extended throughout the whole cover. I really like this look, it's really nice. It really worked with the early volume covers, but in later volumes they do a good job of blending the logo in the background to less distract from the art, it seems to, at least to me. At least look at these two covers. You see the pop in pink in the US one with the logo, but the whole volume is a uniform green look in France. A lot more natural looking, I think. And then France also celebrated for the 20th anniversary for the manga and released these special volume covers that year. And damn it, I really want these now too. But I really like how the early volumes look for France. I really like that whole art extended throughout the whole cover. It really shows off the art and looks really nice. And if we move over to Italy and my findings, they stick true to the original covers up until volume 90. Because starting in the Wano arc, they start using that new logo design. It's so weird because it's such a wild change up and I can't find a reason as to why they went with it. And if that logo change wasn't as different enough for you, here is the Spain volumes with mostly the same format as the US and Japan ones, but a little bit different colors. And get a look at that original logo that they have on there. This logo honestly just feels like a fake. Like, I feel like if I went to downtown and wanted to buy some fake volumes or just, you know, fake copy volumes to get for cheaper, I feel like this is the One Piece books that you would get down there. Las historias de Luffy, 3x5, 3x5, aquí están las historias de Luffy, 3x5. And they've actually stuck with this whole format to the latest chapter at 100. La energía vital de un rey. I think that mostly translates to the vital energy, or maybe they mean power to a king. They're talking about Conqueror's Haki here, right? And while we're on the topic of Spanish, in Latin America, you know, Central America, South America, they seem to follow the same or slightly different volume covers. So I guess if you speak Spanish, you have a choice. Or you don't have a choice and you want to collect or need to collect both. But if we go south to Brazil, where they speak Portuguese, correct me if I'm wrong, como vai você va todo bem lendo a One Piece, el mejor del mundo. But down here, we get something close to the France covers, but they're half volumes, so you get another artwork to go along with it, which I see as a bonus. It also looks like they also have regular volumes now, but also look at how different their 3-in-1 volumes are. You'll never lose these, they're so bright. But around the world, the One Piece manga stays somewhat the same, but with little different variations on the covers, titles, logos, the little variations where they put the translations of the name of the volume in a different language, and the color changes completely. In the German volumes, they have a blue theme going on, for the all blue I hope. But one thing I like most about the American manga is the spines. I love the color spilling over to the spines versus a lot of spines I see are all white. But one thing that really sucks about the American volumes, because I have to judge them, is the volume number. I like that it's there, but it can get in the way of the art. Like, this should be a sin. They covered Robin. And even here, they even have little Otama covered up too. But I really prefer the colored spines because most of the time your manga is going to be on your bookshelf because unless you have like a whole giant wall to display all the volume covers. I think it looks better on your shelf to have a lot of colors. It just really brings the life out of One Piece because it's such a colorful manga. But I have to say that Japan has the best covers. It's just perfect. And then I'll maybe give it to France because I do like the early volumes. I'm not the biggest fan of the logo, but then I'll give it to America for them colored spines. And I can go on forever about volume covers, but I want to save that for another video, my favorite volume covers. So like the video if you want to see that, but let's talk about some of the logos. That's the one thing I'm personally not jealous of. Let's look at the mess that is the Italian logo. No, that's enough. It's too much. I'm sorry, Italy, but what is going on with that title? Like, just the random fonts and it's all over the place. You could kill a kid with such a wild logo. So let's look over at France instead. Even the France logo is a little different than what we got here, but it's almost the same. It just doesn't have any style. It just basically doesn't have the Jolly Roger and it doesn't have the eye, which is Luffy. I really like that about the One Piece logo, you know? And these differences in logos, it's what inspired me to jump on the Going Merry and sail around the world and see the many different regions and see how different One Piece can look. Most publications decide to either play it safe and stick with the great Japanese one or want to be different, and that's what's interesting to see. And while the world is big, but apparently not so big, so here are some of the more notable logo changes that I found. The Middle East probably has the funniest one to me because it looks just like a poorly edited logo since it just looks like the regular one but with the Jolly Roger removed. Most likely for censorship, but more on that later. And then we have Israel where they changed the logo into Hebrew, and I actually really like this. I won't try to pronounce it, but I like to see the One Piece logo in different languages. They even changed the To Be Continued screen in Hebrew too. We also have it in Korea, South Korea. I'm pretty sure you have to name it right. I actually don't know if North Korea even has anime. Like, are they allowed to even see that kind of stuff up there? And the most unique ones are the Italy and the Spain one, and we have already gone over those, so I'm not gonna keep ripping on them. And then I just want to throw this one in there, the Netflix One Piece logo. It's a safe one, but the skull looks a little not right. It just doesn't look clean. I can't put my finger on it, but when I first saw it for the first time, I couldn't help but be worried about the live action. Just something about it didn't sit right. I mean, now it's fine because I'm feeling a little optimistic about the Netflix series, so I'll just leave it at that. And before anyone says it, I'm gonna be the biggest simp for the live action Nami. No one else is gonna get that title. It's Stinky who's the biggest simp for live action Nami. Please tag Emily Rudd in the comments, please and thank you. It's those eyes, Chico. It's those eyes.
The eyes, Chico. They never lie.
But that's enough simping, and let's move on to this. Now we have this. I found this Greece logo of the original One Piece anime when it first aired over there, and just look at it. And it also helps me transition into my next topic, that while a lot of countries do keep the same logo, they might refer to One Piece by a different name. And in Greece, it was first marketed as Drake, the hunting of the treasure. I don't know why they couldn't just put One Piece instead of treasure, but hey, you know, they do get some treasure in the series, just very little of it. And yes, you can guess it, Luffy's name was changed to Drake. More on that later. And you thought Luffy was a little insane, huh? And then we also have China and Taiwan, where I'm a little confused on it. I think they share the same kind of characters, but they do use the same logo and characters, and I believe, depending on the translation, they market One Piece as Sailing King or just Pirate King. But then I also found a translation that means King of Navigation, which doesn't really make sense because Luffy's not gonna be the King of the Navigation, he's gonna be King of the Pirates, but we will have the Queen of Navigations with the Straw Hats with Nami. I'm thinking about her again. But one thing to note, that before I start getting comments with "we don't call One Piece that," this was how One Piece was originally marketed when it was first released, and might still be marketed as this. Of course, now with the internet and all that, everyone knows or should know that this is the One Piece. Not the actual One Piece, I mean One Piece the show, because we still don't know what the One Piece is. But there are still probably people out there that still think that this is Drake, the hunting of the treasure. And if we move on to Russia, who changed One Piece to Jackpot, and I guess the One Piece is the jackpot of all treasures, so I get it, but I don't get it. And a really popular one is that a lot of countries change One Piece, or at least the title for the show, as Rubber Boy. In Malaysia, it's Buddha Geta. I'm sorry that I really butchered that pronunciation, but it translates to Rubber Boy, and I won't even try to pronounce any more of them, but Rubber Boy seems to be a really popular name change. And I might totally be making this up, but I think in Guatemala, I remember there being a commercial where they have it as One Piece, Las Aventuras de Luffy, or something like that. It's just such a faint memory that I have. I might be wrong. Can someone correct me if you're from there, or at least, you know, Central and South America? And a little fun fact, that was the first time I actually watched One Piece. And while I don't remember everything from that hazy memory, one thing for sure, and that's of course the Straw Hats all sound different in every language, because duh, it's a different language, right? But I'm not gonna go with every dub because I'm pretty sure everyone knows about the different dubs, but we all go sub because that seems like the only way to watch One Piece. But feel free to watch the dubs. I mean, I don't even blame you. I kind of like the Funimation dubs, so you can go ahead and judge me if you want. But in case you didn't also know, that they obviously have different names, and different names for islands and just items due to every language shocker not being the same, or just a weird translation error. Not everyone, but we all know about how Zoro is Zolo in the Viz translations of the manga, and we assume it's because maybe there was copyrights issue, or maybe because there's no R in the Japanese language, so maybe they meant Zolo. I don't know why. There's got to be a reason out there. And there's other small little differences, like, you know, the different kinds of hockey. We have Conqueror's hockey, and then there's the color of the Supreme King. But I don't want to go over everything, just the big differences, or some of the most interesting. The most interesting to me is Luffy, because he's the main character, so you would expect that Luffy is Luffy everywhere, but that is not the case. We've already gone through Hebrew, where he's Luffy, and in Greece it's Drake. And if we take this to Sweden, where we have Monkey D. Dragon, where he's known as Monkey D. Drake. So I guess there's some connection out there for Drake in One Piece. But just in case you didn't know, it's not that all these publications are big fans of Drake. I mean, Drake didn't even exist back then, but Drake in Sweden translates to dragon. And that's going to be the most common thing you'll see in One Piece around the world, that maybe things won't be called the same, because obviously if there's a word for it in their language, they're gonna change it to that, but I'll get into that in just a bit. Because I'm really interested that they would change some of the main characters' names. I mean, we all know about Zoro being Zolo, but it's not always that. Sometimes instead of Zoro, we'll get Zoro with 2 R's. And if that's not different enough for you, he's not also Roronoa in some sections, he's also Loroloa. It's so jarring to see so many different ways of spelling Roronoa or Loroloa, because I assume that it's really hard to say that name in certain languages. And Usopp around the world does have some changes with his names due to playoffs of using lie in his name. In France, it's not Usopp, it's people, from the word pipoter or pipotois, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that means to lie. In Germany, he's also Lysop, and then you just get different ways of spelling Usopp, but one of the funniest ones that I found that he can be also named Liar Bo. Apparently that's a spelling found in some bootleg DVDs from God knows where. And of course there are a lot of variant names to different characters because around the world I guess they'll switch some words that are just kind of weird to pronounce or they don't have certain words in their languages. But I also wanted to go over some interesting translations that I found, and one of the first ones I found was in Denmark. The celestial dragons become Himmeldragerne. I'm sorry I mispronounced that again, but that translates to sky dragons, which I think it's kind of interesting because though most dragons fly, so why would you say the sky dragon? Unless of course in Denmark skies mean the heavens, and you know the celestial dragons are looked as gods in the world of One Piece. I guess I just kind of explained it for myself, but let's move on to Finland where the devil fruits are called pirunmarjas. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop pronouncing things, but that translates to devil berries. Obviously I can look this up. I wonder if they just don't have the word for fruit, and I'm just thinking it's interesting that they got changed to berries. And let's move back to France because in France, hockey isn't hockey, it becomes fluid, which means fluid. I guess it's not that different, right? But it has an E at the end. And I wonder why it's fluid because hockey isn't really fluid in motion. It's just like this weird power of will. Like it's a willpower. What makes it fluid? And if you're from these countries, please leave a comment down below explaining some of the things that are different and what the translations are and the definitions are because I really want to know. I find it so interesting. And I forgot to mention one thing about France that when they first introduced Sanji, he was actually introduced as Sandy. I just find it funny because somewhere in France there's some kids that still think that this is Pipo and this is Sandy. But they were later renamed back to originally Usopp and Sanji in the new re-editions of the volumes. But one that was never changed was that Buggy was actually called Baggy in France, so and that stuck. He's still Baggy, I believe. Another funny name change is that in Indonesia, in the anime, Shanks is named Jackie. But the most insane difference for me is the loss in translation, I believe, is that most of the unique laughs were not mimicked in the Hebrew dub. And that's just insane to me because hearing Blackbeard not do his like trademark laugh would just feel wrong. That is like one of the many personalities about One Piece, and it's his goofy laughs. And I know it's really interesting to go over all the interesting and unique translations, but we would be here forever. But if you have some of your own, please leave them down in the comments. I just want to move on. Probably the last thing I'm gonna really talk about One Piece around the world, and it's censorship, because we all know about the hilariously bad 4Kids dub and its censorship. But what's even more hilarious is that we weren't the only ones to suffer from the 4Kids censoring, because Mexico and a lot of Latin American countries had to deal with the same cut.
When did Luffy start having complete thoughts such as this?
But of course, just like us, they would eventually have the faithful anime that is uncensored, and one thing about Spanish dubs is that they are fantastic dubs. If you understand Spanish, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go on record and say that the DBZ dub rankings go as English first, Spanish, and then the Japanese dub. Fight me, dog. That's the true ranking of that dub. Spanish people just know how to make a good dub. Like, listen to the Chainsaw Man dub. It's fire.
¿Cómo se atreve a secuestrar a un gatito? Como Devil Hunter, no lo puedo dejar pasar.
And this won't be really a long portion of the video because a lot of the censorship around the world concerning One Piece is about the same. They will block out a lot of the violence, and then of course they'll be banning some sections because they don't want kids watching violence. But one of the more noticeable censorships that I saw was of course in Germany. While the manga is left uncensored in both dialogue and images, the only exception is of course in volume 18, because of course Ace pops up and he has a swastika on his back, and that of course was erased, only leaving Whitebeard's face, which just looks kind of weird. Like, why couldn't they also just put a cross instead, just like in America? I guess it's just that didn't work either. And if that wasn't enough censorship in Germany, apparently the anime has a lot of the violence cut out. And then the last one I'm gonna go over is South Korea, where they have a lot of censorship and just a lot of changes in the anime and manga. This was just interesting to me because a lot of the Japanese text is changed to Korea, and then we get another instance where Sanji's cigarette is changed to a lollipop. And of course, there's just a lot of censorship with impacts and violence are occasionally whited out, which is pretty funny to me. All the blood is erased, which is better than having white blood, but the worst one is that the cleavage is either covered up or erased. Like, come on, man, leave the titties alone. Titties are part of One Piece's DNA. Just put it back, man. Put the titties back. But that's it for a lot of the censorship in One Piece. In a lot of parts of the world, the show's either cancelled or banned due to the violence. And of course, this wasn't just happening to One Piece. Growing up, I remember cartoon censorship being such a big deal, with dumbass kids jumping out the windows thinking they could fly, and me screaming in front of the mirror hoping I'd go blonde. But throughout all my research, one thing I found was how proud people were to be from countries where you wouldn't expect there to be so much manga fans or One Piece fans for that matter. And then the pride they took in certain characters for having connection to their own countries was amazing. Like, fans from Brazil take the biggest pride in the fact that Luffy's nationality will be Brazilian in the real world. Oda has made One Piece a culturally rich world, taking elements from our real world and implementing it into the world he has created. One Piece has so much to make it popular around the world with its wide variety of characters and islands. And while some regions have had censorship problems or even banning the whole show due to violence like in the Middle East, I've seen some fans say how popular One Piece actually is in Saudi Arabia with its own Arabic sub now. Shit, even one of my friends was visiting in Qatar and sent me this plushie of Luffy out there, so we are out around the world. Of course, it isn't strange that One Piece is popular around the world because it is one of the biggest manga around the world. That's what made me want to see how different One Piece can look around the world, because we are all culturally different, and of course we have different languages and different variations in how we do things, of course. I hope you guys found this as interesting as much as I did. I love One Piece and I love finding out small facts like these. While the fan base might make it hard for people to get in, and I know the length of it makes it even harder for most to get in, but the reason we're so pushy because it's just that good and worth it. But just be careful because it might consume your life, and then you're gonna be in a rabbit hole of just going full on research mode on information like this and be just like me. Like, come on, there's people in Greece that see One Piece today and think that Luffy is still called Drake. I just find that fascinating. And I think that's it for the video because I still have to edit all this and this has gone on really long. But if you've made it this far into the video, please do hit it with a like. I did put a lot of effort into it. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe so I can become the king of the YouTubers, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you. I can speak Spanish but have no idea how to translate One Piece into Spanish. La única pizza? That's pizza.